Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from pewterreport.com, and I am the solo host today. Well, myself and all of you on this beautiful Victory Monday. We are talking Bucs football. I'm answering all your questions. I'm talking about the development of Kyle Trask and everything I saw from him and from others at rookie minicamp this past weekend. Talking about Jalen Darden and how he looked, Robert Hainsey and how he's looked, and any of the other players that y'all want to talk about and discuss. Today we're doing it on the podcast. Scott is sick. Mark has a doctor's appointment. I don't know where Matt and Taylor are, MIA, missing in action right now. So, yeah, it's your boy today on a Monday. And the rest of the week, we've got some awesome shows lined up for you. We're very, very excited about those as well. Might have guests every day this week. We'll see. Waiting for confirmation for Bruce Arians as to when he's going to be on the podcast. We'll have a Cowboys person on to talk week one this week. That'll be very exciting. And then Mike Clay of ESPN is coming on Thursday's show. So, man, it's going to be a good week of show. I'm excited to hear Mike Clay talk about win probabilities and where he sees the Bucs' strength of schedule at, really, because I know he sees them right now as one of the better the best strength of schedule in the NFL. So there's a lot to unpack. We're going to do some of that on this show and throughout the rest of the week as well. And of course, as always, it is brought to you by our good friends over at Celsius. Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. I'm doing the peach vibe, the limited edition sparkling white peach. I love it. It's one of my favorites. I know there's some people in the chat I've probably got the most messages about peach vibe, I think, since we started, but definitely some people in the chat who are big fans of the peach vibe. And I am as well. A healthy energy, man, accelerates metabolism, burns body fat. It's incredible stuff. I really enjoyed Brent Allen's kind of a Pewter cast fame, his breakdown of his first sip of Celsius. And I'm glad that he really enjoyed it. If you didn't see that on Twitter, it was pretty funny. Head over to Brent's Twitter account and you can see him break down his tasting his first couple Celsius, but he enjoyed them as most people do. So if you're looking for a healthy energy drink, man, that has lots of great stuff for you and doesn't crash, go to Celsius.com. Check out, or you can go to the banner ads at pewterreport.com, click there, purchase yourself some Celsius. It's really good stuff. Don't think you're going to regret it. The fact that they're able to keep the flavor that they are and the taste that they are while not giving you any of the unhealthy stuff is pretty exciting. So definitely check out Celsius.com. All right. I know y'all want to talk about him. I know y'all have been waiting to talk about Kyle Trask. I saw your tweets. I saw them when Taylor and Matt were there. I saw the bad throw, the interception by Trask, two other bad throws. Some of you, I saw you saying, what a waste of a pick. This guy stinks. He's terrible. And I was just so proud because you're becoming high expectation fan base. That's who you are. If guys don't ball out right away, we're out. We're done. That's what they do in Pittsburgh. And so you love it. No, you all cracked me up for real when I was seeing some people on Twitter. Obviously, most of you are recognizing that we need a little bit more of a sample size of Kyle Trask to see that. We got a little bit more on Saturday. Kyle Trask was out there. Obviously, he's taken all the reps at rookie minicamp because there's so few guys this year. I think 25 guys out there this past weekend for the Bucs. So not a lot of reps to go off of for most of these guys in a normal year. But this year, everybody's getting more opportunities. That can be good. That can be bad. I think he was pretty good on Saturday, to be honest. Definitely impressed me. Obviously, like I came into this, my expectations for Kyle Trask are more backup or number 2 quarterback oriented, not future starter. The Bucs' expectations, since given where they draft him, they'd love him to become a future starting option, at least for them. We'll see if he ends up being the better one, if they have multiple options at some point. But that's what they want to see him become. Doesn't have to happen by a second rookie minicamp practice, but one of the things that's encouraging to me is you've heard a lot of people talk about arm strength with Kyle Trask. So I'm going to talk about arm strength a little bit, and then I'm going to jump in and answer any questions you have. Then we'll talk about some of these other guys. There's things I want to say about Jalen Darden and Robert Hainsey as well, and some of my observations on them that I'm guessing you probably haven't seen anywhere else, because I'm kind of a nerd with this stuff, and I'll like really hone in on these guys during practice a little bit. And so I'll talk about Kyle Trask here really quickly in arm strength. I think arm strength is like the most misunderstood aspect of quarterback play when people are evaluating it. It's not just velocity. By the way, am I looking at that camera? Because it's just me today. So am I looking at my camera, or I'm usually looking at my screen to kind of look at the other person I'm talking to. Now I have to make decisions. This is difficult. I'll look up here for now. I think with arm strength, one of the biggest things is velocity and distance are not the same things. You've probably heard me say that before. Most quarterbacks in the NFL can throw for distance. That's not a very uncommon trait. Yes, some can probably throw further than others. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. But most can throw for distance about as well as you need to throw for distance to be able to complete a 9 route or a throw over the top of coverage. That typically isn't a huge concern with quarterbacks, is the ability to throw for distance. Now, you've seen some guys after they've been injured where they've not been able to throw the ball as far. That's definitely true for some players, but most guys, when they're in the prime and they haven't had a significant injury, they can throw far down the field, far enough down the field where you can complete your average, 9-yard route or something like that for a vertical ball. Now, velocity is totally different, and velocity can also be broken up into different things. Velocity between the numbers, if you're scouting a college guy, or between the hashes in college, I think it's more common. Not everybody has it. It's true. But I still think if you drop straight back and you can throw with very little, rotation of your lower half to the middle of the number, to the middle of the field, I think most quarterbacks can throw there, and they can throw with pretty decent velocity in college. Not all of them, some are definitely better than the others, but can you throw with good enough velocity between the hashes in college? Most quarterbacks would check that box too. It's not necessarily some could check it more emphatically than others for sure. And that will matter in the NFL when you project just tighter windows. I think Trask can throw fine in those two areas. He can throw the ball down the field. He actually does it very well. Good touch, good accuracy, good timing. That was one of his strengths in college. And I think he can throw with velocity to the middle of the field. We saw that on Saturday. He had a dig route to Amara Darboh, and he threw it right in there, zipped it between Stewart and Britt. I'm not saying they're the rangiest guys, but he zipped it between them. And then Javon Hagan's closing on the ball, and he got it into Darboh, sliding catch, good gain, nice throw, good anticipation, good zip on it. I thought it was one of his better plays of the weekend. Now, the third aspect of velocity, where it changes, is throwing outside of the numbers. So in college and the NFL, obviously that's different where the placement of this kind of stuff is. But the ability to throw outside of those areas. So you're taking the snap, you're dropping back, then you're resetting your hips to the right or to the left, right, to throw a ball. You're resetting your feet, you're resetting things a little bit. Now that's a very slight motion, especially as you get used to playing quarterback. But that is a different type of velocity. That is most of the time where you see quarterbacks with a lack of arm strength exposed in those areas. You won't necessarily see it. What happens is everybody, as soon as somebody throws the ball far down the field, they're like, oh, I thought he had arm strength questions. Well, that's not that simple. The arm strength questions don't manifest themselves in those areas. It manifests themselves when the ball is going outside the numbers, outside the hash type of stuff. So that's where the concern with Kyle Trask lies. That's where he was intercepted against Alabama. That's where he's been intercepted a few times. Plays been made on the ball. Those kinds of things. That's where he has some concerns, and you still are seeing that. I mean, that is still part of his game. You saw, he threw to a wide open Jalen Darden. I think the ball got there a little slower on Saturday's practice than you wanted to. Another pass to the flat, where you had to reset just a little bit, was knocked down in that area of the field. So that's the danger zone for Kyle Trask right now, is short to intermediate outside the numbers for the most part. That's where he really needs to make sure that he's improving. We've seen other quarterbacks improve in that way. We've seen other quarterbacks continue to struggle there. But that, to me, is where the lack of arm strength shows up for Kyle Trask. They are working on it. I saw Clyde Christensen and Tom Moore walking him through stuff, and they were, okay, you're opening up now, and this is the timing, and this is the hip snap and rotation. And, we can bring quarterback experts on here to go into even more detail about where the front foot should be and where the back foot should finish. But without getting into all that detail that I don't think most of you are even interested in, can he improve on it? I don't know. I do think some quarterbacks can improve those things with mechanical advancements, but I also don't think Kyle Trask's physical tools are ever going to be that great. So maybe it's something that he has to live with, and that's a limitation of his game, and it will mean he has to play faster up here. So we'll see about that. Hans is still out on the move. He said, I'm going to be waiting forever on that one. Yeah, for sure. Duke of Dice, you would like to know where Scott is. He has a doctor's appointment too today. He's not feeling that well today. So he is a sore throat, actually, I think. So he's a little bit raspy today. So I figured I'd do all the talking for Pewter Report. Ed, I have not been hitting the bench. Oh, I have been hitting the bench, but I don't think it's necessarily different today. Trade Kyle Trask for a washing machine, Han says. Wow. Just slander for Kyle Trask. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and I will get to as many as I possibly can. John wants to know, what can you learn from rookie minicamp? This is actually a really good question, because I'll be straight up honest. There's not a ton that you can learn from rookie minicamp. You can't learn everything from rookie minicamp that you'd like to learn. So one of the big and important things about evaluating rookie minicamp, and even evaluating regular minicamp and OTAs, you have to focus on what you can learn. There is no point, for me personally, there's no point to watching the offensive line during the team periods. There's just not. You're not actually blocking guys. They're not actually pass rushing. You're going through the motions. Sure, you're getting out of your stance. That's fine. Not saying nothing can be gained, but if you're watching the center, does he snap the ball accurately on time? A lot of people wouldn't even think to look for that, but that, when you're talking about a guy that's getting trained at center and Robert Hainsey, you want to see that. I didn't see any errant snaps from Hainsey during practice. That's an encouraging sign to me. Or who's the vocal leader when they go to huddle? I always look for that in the breakout sessions with the positional units. Who's the vocal leader? Who's the guy that's kind of getting everybody huddled up, taking charge of the group? A lot of times in these rookie minicamps and OTAs, the quarterbacks are talking to the coaches, getting the next play or going over a couple things. So does someone else take control and huddle everybody up and get everybody in the huddles? Robert Hainsey did that consistently. He was that guy. Everybody get out, he was telling everybody, it's the vocal leader. That's good as a center, guy. And it's just as a rookie in general, I think that's encouraging to see. Again, not saying anybody's going to the Hall of Fame off these things, but when you're watching rookie minicamp, you want to pick up as many little details as you can that you otherwise, once they get into pads and they're hitting, you're going to be looking for other things. So what can you learn in these settings that's important? The DBs are working out. They're all start to leave after their session's over. They're doing their own thing as a positional group. They all start to walk back over to the main group. Javon Hagan calls everybody back, gets a break. Okay. Bucs on 3 or whatever, that he's the one that calls everybody back, gets them all in there, so again, culture guys, who's keeping up the practices that you want stuff like that as a part of an organization. Hagan's doing that. Bruce Arians raves about him after practice, says he's dropped 10 to 12 pounds. All right, stock up for Hagan. Might be meaningless if somebody else comes in. If Curtis Riley comes in and gets 3 picks in the first preseason game, it probably ain't going to matter. But that's what you're looking. You're just looking to see what are the things that you can learn in those sessions. The guys run back to the group, do those kind of things, body temperament. For example, again, I'm not trying to blow anybody up, but they're going through, it's a walkthrough period. You come off line of scrimmage, you run your routes. Jarrell Adams, who did get signed, he takes 2 steps maybe off the line of scrimmage. He's running a seam, but they're just kind of going through the motions on air, no defense. Takes 2 steps on the seam, and Kyle Trask throws the seam. He's throwing it. Normally, they don't always throw it, so maybe Adams isn't expecting that. But he takes 2 steps off the line, and he has to kind of hurry and catch up to the ball and kind of tip it to himself. But you just always looking for, are they engaged the whole time? Are they finishing every single rep? Every single play with that energy. I think those things are important. So I look for those kind of things. Vocal leaders, who's calling signals. You look for who's lining up where. If Hainsey had played 5 different positions, that's probably a story, and that's something you all want to know. If he was, lining up a different spot every single snap. Say they get into camp, you're going to want to know. They get into OTAs and the whole offensive line's there. Say Josh Wells is the second team left tackle, and he's switching over to the right tackle side, and he's taking snaps there. You're going to want to know that kind of stuff. He's playing multiple positions. So those are some of the things you look for. You look for that kind of information rather than, these massive kind of takeaways like, oh, this guy's an unbelievable vertical threat. You're not going to know that. You're not going to know that about Jalen Darden by watching him against Antonio Hamilton and Chris Wilcox probably. So, you could certainly notice some good things about what he does. Getting off the line of scrimmage, I thought was a good thing. We'll talk about in a second. But just, you got to be able to temper the expectations for what you're going to learn in these kind of situations. Somebody wants to know about, could he replace Vaughn? Tom Bucs fan. I see your original question. I'm sorry. What do you think of the new guys we signed as tryout players? All have NFL experience. What about Pope as a running back? and then mentioned, could he replace Keyshawn Vaughn later on in the comments. Man, I think it'd be a long shot to say Tremaine Pope could replace Keyshawn Vaughn. I don't know that I see that in his cards, in the cards for him. I think he's very much a long shot. I think what he is he's a guy that has some pass catching experience, some pass protecting experience. He's not necessarily a rookie. He's run the ball a little bit. He's played for a bunch of different systems. I don't like to use the word can't body because I think that means that I don't feel like the guy has a shot to make a team. And I'd like to believe everybody's, in good programs, I think everybody's given that fair shot and that fair opportunity. So you'd like to think the Bucs are that way. I know Pittsburgh for years definitely was that way. Guy balled out. I remember Roosevelt Nix came in, and nobody even considered him. He was an undersized defensive tackle from Kent State that they were moving to fullback, and they already had a fullback at the time, and so nobody even considered him, and he just went a balls to the wall every time. Special teams, everything he did. And he made the team over, and a lot of people didn't expect that. Well, we might have been looking at the wrong things at that point in time. So I think that's the way the Bucs consider things, but it would be surprising to me if Tremaine Pope beat out Keyshawn Vaughn. And he, I think mainly is when you're the Bucs right now, you don't necessarily want to give Fournette, Bernard, or Rojo, your top three running backs, many carries in the preseason and probably many contact carries, even in training camp practices and things like that. So I think you just are trying to be smart. Normally teams maybe have two guys like that. Not a lot of teams have three guys like that. So my guess is, and Procise is either unhealthy now. I don't know if he's not healthy yet, or I'm not sure what his situation is. I know he's been injured a lot in his career, but you'd probably see Pope and Vaughn handle the majority of the preseason snaps at running back. So valuable opportunity for him. Certainly if he balls out and Vaughn keeps fumbling, dropping the ball, I'm not saying it's off the table, but I think Vaughn would have to really fall on his face, I think, to lose that opportunity. And I think Vaughn will be better. I think he'll be better. We'll see. Maybe not. I don't know. Some good questions about the class in general, though, the guys that they signed. Honestly, I thought Antonio Hamilton had probably the roughest practice of the corners on Saturday. But the thing about Antonio Hamilton really has nothing to do with his defense. He's on this team as a tryout option because he's been a genuinely really good special teams player during his career. I don't necessarily watch a ton of special teams personally myself in terms of scouting these guys. So I rely some on reputation of people I know that cover the team, cover the Chiefs. And then the Pro Football Focus's grades as well, to kind of give me an idea. If the guy's just like, okay for whatever, but he's been good for several years here. His grades for Pro Football Focus, he's been in the green the last 4 years, and in last 3 years, he's been a four-phase special teams type of guy in the NFL. So he's a lot of snaps, and he's been very, very good on special teams. And last year, I think he got 3 penalties. That's the only reason his numbers weren't higher. He ended up with 3 penalties last year, and he missed a couple tackles. But genuinely, he's been great at doing his job on special teams. That's why he's here. It doesn't really matter. Yes, I don't think he's been very good on defense. He's definitely slow. But special teams, that's where he shines, and so he's going to have a chance. And he's been around too. This is his sixth season. He's played a lot. He's played every game the last couple of years. So that's where you see with Antonio Hamilton. Wasn't Hamilton the guy who lined up offside in the Super Bowl? Oh, that's a good question, Max. I am not sure. I'm not sure. Somebody would have to look that one up. I don't. Which play? Can you remind me which play? I'm trying to remember that one. That's interesting. Maybe it was. That would be a funny side story, actually, that I hadn't noticed. Is the final roster still only 53? Damien wants to know. As far as I know, it is still only 53. No final decision's been made on that, and the league has not announced anything on practice squad sizes either yet. So there is definitely an element of unknown so far on that one, Damien. Parker wants to know if Mr. Irrelevant stood out. I heard stories of. So, it's going to be hard for me to say negative things about Grant Stewart or KJ Britt in terms of the way they carry themselves. Obviously, Stewart being Mr. Relevant in this situation. But, man, they are just impressive dudes. They are. I love the way they talk. I love the way they talk about leadership and culture and the physicality of the game and their love for the game and how they just genuinely want to dominate special teams. They barely even mention defense. Not that they want to be the best they can be on that side of the ball too, but they genuinely – you can tell they just sold teams, especially the Bucs, on their ability and their desire to be great on special teams. Stewart was like, I want to be the best player in the league on special teams. That's like my goal. And I just thought that was cool. Guys often kind of set their sights on something they can't be. And so it's good, you want guys that are realistic kind of about that. I'm sure they're going to work their tail off at everything they do, but realistically, man, if you should put every waking minute you have into special teams, because that's how they're going to have an NFL career. And they certainly both have the disposition for that. They have leadership skills that you want, communication skills that you want. I thought KJ Britt's comments to the media about understanding that leadership is about relationships and people first was just a really mature thing. You don't always hear that from a guy that age. I think that a lot of people think it's about rah-rah and how much you talk and how much you know and all that kind of stuff. The fact that he was able to recognize that it's about relationships and, having my brother's back and all that kind of stuff, thought that was really cool. And it speaks to, I'm sure why Auburn recommended him so highly to Tampa Bay and why they've consistently referred back to, Auburn's coaches rave about him. Auburn's coaches love him. I think that stuff matters. So yeah, Stewart and Britt were both very impressive during the practices. Again, I think where both are going to struggle and where they need to shine, and struggle defensively in two ways. The coverage drills, that's where you want to see them kind of be better than what you hope once they get matched up backs on backers in coverage, and then backs on backers pass protection too. Because that'll show you the physicality side of it, but also the power, how are they taking on blockers, how are they able to avoid them because they have that blitz potential, things like that. Because Stewart moved around a lot the other day. I mean, he was definitely blitzing off the edge some, so they want to see all those kind of things, how you stand out in those situational play. You only learn so much about linebackers, run fits and practices, mini camps, OTAs, training camp. They just can't fit the run that hard in those settings. So you're not going to learn a lot about that until the game. John Anderson says it was indeed Antonio Hamilton who lined up in the neutral zone. I did not realize that. I'm going to have to go back and find that actually and maybe tweet out that play. That's pretty funny. Oh, somebody said Hardman was the guy that was penalized. Maybe they both did. I can't remember on the field goal attempt. Maybe it was both guys. Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't remember which one got that guy. Okay, so for Hamilton, let's just talk about him real quick. Well, actually, let's talk about this before we talk about Hamilton, because we've got legitimate cases to make the roster for two guys that were just signed as tryout players, Antonio Hamilton and Curtis Riley. There's, again, veterans that are being signed as tryout players, but not guys like Jarrell Adams who haven't played in the league for several years, have very little experience. These guys legitimately play. 2 years ago, Curtis Riley started every game for the Giants. He had 4 picks at free safety, played over 1,000 snaps. So we've got to talk about those guys. One of the ways and one of the places that we get into a lot of this nitty gritty, and I see Josh Allen jumping in the chat, and I see some of y'all that are in the chat that are also joining us every week on Locker Room. Locker Room is changing the way we talk sports. It's the only place for live audio conversations about the takes, rumors, news, and teams you care about. React to sports news as it happens, gather all your friends and watch parties for the biggest games, rep your favorite teams, and find your community. Better sports talk is just a tap away. Download on the Apple App Store and join the conversation over there with Locker Room. We'll be on this week. I'll be on, Tuesday. No, I won't be on Tuesday night. I'll be on Wednesday night this week. Sorry, Josh. Got to go Wednesday night, I think. Because my Penguins play on Tuesday night, and I can't miss that. No disrespect. Lightning also play on Tuesday night, I believe, right? Great win by the Lightning the other day. Man, that was unbelievable. Unbelievable hockey game. It was so much fun to watch. All right, so I think the real question now is the competition level at the, everybody wants to know about the tryout players. I really genuinely believe Troy Maine-Pope and Jarrell Adams have really very little shot at making the final roster. That's what I think right now, at least anyway. We'll see about practice squad, maybe. Now, Antonio Hamilton and Curtis Riley are in a different situation. I mentioned Hamilton. It's a great special teams player. The competition is Herb Miller, Chris Wilcox, and Nate Brooks for that spot. So you don't necessarily have, somebody even it's something of value was bestowed upon Vaughn when they took him in the 3rd round. It's only one season, and they want to believe what he'll be and what he'll become down the road. So even if he isn't great, he's got that going for him. There's none of that with the rest of the cornerback room. Same with tight end, even, you have your top 3 tight ends, but even beyond that, Tanner Hudson's been here for a while. He's played. They like him on the field. Clearly, they think he has potential to be a contributor. So of those tryout players, and I'll talk about Cameron Kinley. I see you, Elliot. I'll talk about Cameron Kinley in a minute here, but of those tryout players, I think that's one of the areas where you've got a path. You need a path to that roster, and I think you have that with Hamilton. You have that with Riley too. Riley, again, that competition's a little bit better for that safety spot. I think they really like Javon Hagan. Do they keep 5 safeties? They certainly could keep 5 safeties. There's actually, I honestly think it's going to be an upgraded room. I mean, I thought Andrew Adams was good, but they've done a really nice job. I think Raven Green is a good, solid player. He can play linebacker a little bit for you. That's just a nice player to have on your roster. Can fill a couple roles. Good special teamer, physical, aggressive guy. He's going to bring the energy. You could see that watching him on tape. He was just every play. He's talking after every play. He's physical. He just plays the game really, really hard. So like having guys like that on the team, I think that's going to be big. Curtis Riley, obviously, Hagan. Riley, you have a genuine. I don't know if he's a great special teamer. He's not played as much as Hamilton's played as much special teams, but he's played a lot more defense. And Hamilton, honestly, pretty cheeks when he's been out there on the field defensively in his career. Not necessarily the guy you'd like to see as CB5 if he's ever called upon. Very kind of Ryan Smith-esque in that way. It's not necessarily he's gotten a chance to play some defense. Results haven't been great. That's kind of what it was for Ryan Smith. Got a chance to play defense. Results weren't great. So you're hoping you just keep him in a special teams role if you can. But Curtis Riley in there, I mean, I'm not saying he's great or anything, but he's legitimately played defense. He's played a good bit of it. 2018, 1,048 snaps for the Giants. Free safety mostly. I think he is really just not a very good tackler. That's the biggest question for him. And that obviously hurts when you're trying to make the team on special teams. So I still think Curtis Riley is the longer shot. I think Antonio Hamilton has the best chance kind of to make the final roster, I think, out of the tryout guys. But then he has to contend with the rookie mini camp upstart, the star himself, Cameron Kinley. Let's just look up a couple Cameron Kinley facts, okay, here for people. Yes, I understand he's still kind of a long shot to make the team, but let's be honest, competition for CB5 is not great right now in the Bucs. So Cameron Kinley, cornerback, Navy, 6'2", 204. Right away, the body type stood out. Man, he's definitely physical. I mean, he'll body guys to the sideline. Not gonna lie, he was working over what's TJ Simmons or whatever his name is, the receiver that was there at camp, undrafted free agent for the Bucs. He was really working him over. And Simmons doesn't have speed, and that's where Kinley might get exposed. We'll see. But using that physicality to his advantage. And I thought he was patient in press. You love seeing that. You don't love guys kind of falling all over the place out of press. Thought Kinley did a really nice job in that regard. So some good stuff there. Now, Kinley didn't have any numbers in college, really. I mean, 1 interception in his time in college. Wasn't really much of a splash play guy at all. 12 passes defensed over the past 3 years total. So again, he has not been necessarily that splash play guy, but I've not studied him either on tape. And so that's going to be a guy that we're going to have to watch him and Hamilton. And then obviously Wilcox, who I didn't think stood out at all. If anybody's in the chat that watched Wilcox, I didn't notice him at all during the practices. It felt like, and this isn't necessarily criticism of Kyle Trask, just an observation, felt like almost every throw went to the right side of the field. I don't know whether that means he's not quite as comfortable throwing left. Seemed like left was kind of a last resort for him. Maybe that's how they were working things. I didn't pay a lot of attention to the route progressions and things like that in terms of where he should go with the ball and everything. But definitely the majority of his throws were to the right side of the field, and Wilcox was his right, and Wilcox was on the defensive right. The vast majority of snaps that I saw. So I think that might be why we didn't see him a whole lot. So we'll see with Wilcox. He does have upside, Parker. Yeah, I mean, Wilcox definitely, big, long, and he tested really well athletically. That's pretty much all he has. And he hasn't missed tackles either. I think he's missed a tackle since 2017 or something like that at BYU. It was crazy. So we'll see what he has to offer. If he's not the most physical tackler necessarily, but he gets guys on the ground a lot. So we'll see for Wilcox. We're going to have to get more exposure to him. We just got OTA word, by the way. OTAs were going to be on the field. So yeah, Tuesday, the 18th, we'll be on the field for minicamp practice OTAs. And then we'll be on the field after that for OTAs as well, the next Tuesday after that. So I think it's the 25th and June 2nd or 1st or something like that. But the next 2 Tuesdays, a week from tomorrow and 2 weeks from tomorrow. So we will get some time to be able to see these players out on the field at OTAs. We'll see who's there. We're not sure about that yet. Who's going to be out there participating and how many players will be there. This is still the voluntary portion. And then mandatory minicamp is June 7th through 9th. So we're going to get opportunities to see these players for sure, to see them out on the field, to see them compete against better competition. I'm very excited about that with a guy like Wilcox for sure. So yeah, we'll have to see. The one guy who wasn't signed as a tryout player was Amara Darbo, who had been a Buck before. This is his second time kind of checking in with Bucs, and I thought had a pretty good day, honestly. I mean, take for what you will, but he had a pretty good day Saturday, and I'm not sure about Friday, but yeah, I think that's going to be something with Darbo. It's kind of like, I just think there's no way in this wide receiver room, there's just too many guys. So I think that's probably one of the bigger concerns with him. Not necessarily anything he did wrong. Man, he's been around. I mean, third round pick, just never was able to be productive in the NFL. He had a lot of fans coming out of college, coming out of Michigan. Just feels like a long line of Michigan receivers that haven't quite gotten it done in the NFL. Parker wants to know, are any training camp practices going to be open to the public like they used to be? I'm not sure about that, Parker. It will probably depend on where we're at COVID-wise as we get closer to training camp. But my guess is going to be yes. If they're able and there's a way, I think that they'll do it. Ren wants to know, how much would it cost me for you to not live tweet? I think you want to capitalize the not there, Ren, for you not to live tweet the Pens game. Well, I only live tweet like 4 or 5 times during the Pens game. I think it's going to be like $100 a game, Ren. If you want to Venmo me $100 each time the Penguins play, and I'll hope they keep winning, then I will not live tweet at all during the Pens game. So you consider that offer, consider that proposal, and we'll discuss it. Oh, Vortex, the question of the day. Do you know why AB hasn't officially signed yet? Oh, man, there's so many potential reasons. I don't know. I mean, it's AB, his agency, that's not been the most seamless kind of this whole process of getting him re-signed hasn't been necessarily seamless. My guess is it's formalities. Maybe he's not able to physically be there. Maybe what they want him to do in person. I really don't know. I don't know for sure. Obviously, if anybody knew, they'd probably be saying at this point why. Could be something in the language, but it seems like it's going to get done. Worth the hassle. I don't know. We'll find out. I Make Music says, does Trask's arm worry you? I don't see a good arm. Answer this. Well, I will answer this. Thanks for asking. No, I think that, like I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to go back and listen to, you can. But at the beginning of the show, I kind of said, I don't necessarily think his arm is a concern to all areas of the field. Like most quarterbacks, it's certain areas of the field where it gets tricky, and it mainly short to intermediate throws outside the numbers. He's got to be able to reset his feet, and then proper mechanics make that throw. That's the big difference. It's not necessarily that your guy's arm is strong or isn't strong, but can a guy keep and maintain enough arm strength when the lower body mechanics have to change? Same for throwing off platform on the move. Same for throwing when you have to sidestep to your left real quick and throw. Do you maintain the same accuracy, the same velocity in the ball? That's why Pat Mahomes is so difficult. He can backpedal and the ball doesn't come out of his hand any different. He can throw like this square, and he's throwing and the ball doesn't look any different, like coming out of his hand, and the accuracy, the velocity doesn't lose anything. That's crazy. That doesn't happen very often. Brady has kind of never been heralded for arm strength, but he really has such great velocity in the ball. He's always had such great velocity in the ball. I don't know why it's not talked about. Sometimes I think when a quarterback's so good, we've just take something and just kind of rip on it or complain about it and act like it's a weakness to make them seem more human. But he's always had a really, really good arm. One thing he hasn't thrown from a weird base like Mahomes and like sidearm flicks. He doesn't do that kind of stuff, but he's always been able to throw the ball 1.5 miles, and man, can he zip the ball. And I think Bucs receivers honestly had to get used to how much velocity he puts on the ball. Short to intermediate. I mean, he really can hum that thing in a tight window. And it was something they weren't always prepared for, the ball coming out that quick. And so timing issue that you hope gets worked out this year and isn't a concern. That I don't think belief is that Kyle Trask, I don't think he'll ever have an arm like Tom Brady. So that is, if you're, people have made that comparison, even just generally making the comparison between guys that were not necessarily heralded for a long time and kind of were seen as pocket passers. Well, it breaks down at the arm strength to me. I think Brady's arm is very, very good. Gary wants to know about OJ Howard. We wrote about this over at pewterreport.com a couple days ago, 2 days ago, maybe. Bruce Arians offered an update, and it was really encouraging on OJ Howard. He said he sees him like every day. He's working out at the Bucs facility and doing his training there. So, man, I think Bruce just lights up when he talks about it. He thinks he has all the potential in the world, which he does. I know people get tired talking about it. I get that. But yeah, it's just about staying healthy for him. But Bruce said he looks great, and he's very close to being ready. I don't know whether he'll go in mini camp or not, because Bruce just kind of doesn't sound like he really wants to push it with many guys during mini camp. Like he mentioned, Jordan Whitehead probably could go, but he's probably not going to have him do anything during the mini camp. So we'll see what happens with OJ if they let him get back out there and how he's moving around, running around. But no doubt for training camp for Jordan Howard, or for Jordan Whitehead, and for Alex Kappa, it sounds like they'll all be ready to go for training camp. So that's a really encouraging thing. Shouldn't be anybody being held back by the time we get to camp, which is definitely what you want. So now you get out of mini camp healthy, and I think that'll be the biggest thing. Can you get out of that spot healthy? Someone wanted me to compare and contrast the other three quarterbacks with Kyle Trask. I did that with Brady already. Kind of Gabbert, way better arm than Kyle Trask, more mobility than Kyle Trask. So the upside's there, not as accurate as Kyle Trask. Not sure where Gabbert's at with mental processing and decision-making at this point in his career. We've seen him play so little over the last few years, but accuracy just has never been, just never been there. And we saw that even when the Lions game, when he came in, he made some plays, but there were some throws that just like totally missed. So that's the way you're giving up with Gabbert, is that probably never going to happen for him, where he's consistent enough to be a starter. Accuracy wise, where that part could happen for Trask, but you might not have the high end plays that Gabbert could make. I don't know enough about Griffin, to be honest. I just haven't seen him play hardly at all. A couple people at Bucs practice who've seen more of Griffin said that Trask and Griffin seem more similar to them in terms of skill set, like physical skill set. I don't know if that's true, because I just have not watched very much Ryan Griffin. So we'll see. Vortex wants to know who impressed me the most at rookie minicamp. Definitely Cameron Kinley. Kinley was very impressive to me. I'm also really impressed, and it was crazy that Coach Arians pointed this out after practice, because I very much agree with this. I think the offensive linemen they have for camp, there are not a lot of bad bodies, and even Hainsey, guys. And I was hoping Scott would be on today's show so I could bring it up. He looks better already physically. He really does. I did not watch Hainsey out there and think, wow, this guy's got a body that needs some work. Now we'll see, but he's had, again, this whole offseason to train and get right with the NFL in mind, those standards in mind. He's probably left whatever training he was doing and gone to something else that prepares him for the pros over the last few months. The fact that he's been able to change some of his body already, and you could probably see some pictures from camp and see Hainsey, and he looks good. I'm not saying he's done, but finished product or anything, but yeah, physically. And Sedarius Hutchinson is just an absolute tank. That dude is so big. He's just built, man. Like, there's just muscle on muscle with that guy. So I can't wait to see him. I thought, again, you can't get much from their actual play in the team sessions, but in the individual sessions, yeah, all those guys look good. I thought the offensive line, they were coming out of their stance as well. And yeah, Josh is right. Bruce saying that Hainsey can play all 5 spots on the O-line. That was very interesting, because we had heard Jason Light say 4 spots, maybe didn't mention left tackle. Hainsey only played right tackle in college. It's not like he was the super versatile guy. I think left tackle might be a stretch for him, unless he's really kind of ambidextrous like that and can switch over. It's like using the dominant foot completely change when you switch sides like that. So it's hard. But maybe he can do that too. So we'll see. That's probably going to be a build-up thing right now. They want to get him. They know he can play right tackle. I bet he can play right guard, train him at center. Then you can probably kind of figure out the left side of the line if you need him to. But great to have a player like that, who's a grinder, who loves the game, who could be a swing guy at all those spots. If you can keep a guy like that for 4 years on such a cheap deal, even if he never starts and he comes in and he can be a good backup at all those spots, I think there's a lot of value in that. So I'm excited about that. Ben wants to know how the former Cowboys edge rusher. Man, I got to tell you, I was not very impressed. None of the rushers stood out to me at all. But also, it's really hard to tell. You can't actually get after the quarterback. How much you really work in pass rush moves against guys that aren't really even blocking you, and hard to evaluate much up front, in my opinion. I don't even watch there a lot, but definitely not a lot of challenges for Calvin Ashley over at right tackle. He was chilling. He has potential too, to be honest. He's always been really talented. Just technically can he get right when the speed of everything kind of ramps up? But Calvin Ashley looks great on the hoof. That's what I'm saying. The offensive linemen, they have the depth guys, physically look great. And that's, I've been doing camps for how many years, and you go and you see right away, boom, boom, boom. These three linemen don't look like they belong at all. Physically, they look like they came from college. And that's not been the case really at this Bucs minicamp. I thought the offensive linemen physically kind of looked really, really ready to go. Coming back with Jalen Darden here in a second, but I got to mention, as I always do, I tell you all about Playbook Products. You can see the mug behind me for Playbook Products this way. You can see it with the pens in it there, styled. You know that the play detail on Playbook Products stuff, I'm telling you, I'll take one of these slate coasters out so you can see it, but it's the perfect addition to the man cave or woman cave, the sports cave. It doesn't matter. I mean, it could be Bucs, it could be your other favorite team, it could be Lightning. I mean, Lightning, they have Lightning stuff over there. It's great gifts. Father's Day's coming up. There's awesome stuff at Playbook Products. Check out their website and make sure you go ahead and purchase something over there. And I'm telling you, the gifts that they have. I mean, we had Scotty Miller on the podcast, and he can't stop raving about that poster that they made for him. The level of detail, the craftsmanship on these things is tremendous. And so, yeah, definitely would head out over to Playbook Products. Check out their stuff and get somebody a great gift today, or get something for yourself too. I mean, treat yourself. Honestly, Victory Monday, man. I'm telling you, live it up. Flash Gordon wants to know about Jalen Darden. Oh man. Okay, Jalen Darden, most athletic dude on the field during rookie minicamp. Could see it right away. Quickness stood out, boom, all the time. I love that, because when you come from North Texas, I don't know how things are going to look at that level. And obviously, this isn't the best competition, so we'll see. But that's going to be one of the things to watch with Darden, is how he looks compared to the other guys, NFL speed-wise. But I was definitely impressed with him. I thought that he moved really, really well, caught the ball, became a runner really quickly. Didn't see any drops on Saturday. Josh can correct me, or somebody else if they were in there, if they were out there that saw that, could correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't see him with drops on Saturday. I believe Friday, Taylor and Matt said he had 2 drops, maybe something like that. So he struggled a little bit fighting the ball those days. But yeah, I definitely am very excited to see Jalen Darden. But offense, I'm excited to see him there. I think his releases are going to be the most exciting thing when you have guys that can get your hands on him. I mean, he cooked Antonio Hamilton off the line. But when you have corners that are a little better at the line of scrimmage and get your hands on him, are they going to be able to do that? Or is he going to be able to, is it speed, all the way? Is his speed kind of winning consistently? His quickness to the line of scrimmage winning consistently? So Arians mentioned how compact his frame is. Yeah, he's short, but he's also thick. He's strong. So I'm very excited to see Jalen Darden at camp, and obviously Joe Tryon too, if we can get him out there. Josh wants to know if my way too early 53 has changed at all since minicamp. I don't believe that it has, Josh. I'm trying to think. I have to go back and look, but I wouldn't change much after 2 days of rookie minicamp. And I don't think there's been any moves. So yeah, I wouldn't change a lot from that point on. Now, if we get through OTAs and mandatory minicamp, then you can ask me. I'll see if maybe at that point I see something I wasn't expecting, mainly in how the coaches view somebody and their chance of making the team because of that. Couple more, and then I'll wrap things up here. Vortex wants to know, how do I think the Bucs really view Trask, and how do I view him? Do you see him as a true successor to Brady or high-end backup? I've always seen him as a high-end backup. I graded him as a high-end backup. I think that's what he'll be. Spot starter type of guy, never a desirable starter, a guy that you say, this is our franchise quarterback. I don't think he's ever going to be that guy. So, yeah, I think that's what his ceiling is probably. The Bucs probably see a higher ceiling for him for sure. So we're going to have to see who's right in the end. Think there could be some value to having a guy like that in a Super Bowl window with 2 more years of Brady, because if he can come in and again, Gabbard just scares me because I don't like quarterbacks who aren't accurate. And I do think Trask is mostly accurate. So if he can come in and be better than Gabbard in a must-win game, and be less of a risk taker, less of a mistake-prone guy than a Gabbard in a couple must-win games that help, the Bucs hold on to home field advantage or, something like that, then maybe it's worth it in that window. But, I wouldn't take him in the second round, but I also don't think is the worst pick in the world or anything like that. So, yeah, it's a lot. Josh indicates, I've started reading your report, all of them, and they are extremely detailed, as I would expect from you. So I appreciate that, and I'll look forward to talking about those in the locker rooms, actually, and hearing you talk more about those during the locker rooms. Again, another reason for people to jump in and join some of those. So, yeah, so that's kind of how I feel about the Bucs camp. Let me see any other players to comment on. I wish I'd seen more Wilcox, but I think I got a pretty good view of everybody else in the tryout guys. Not much to see from Jarrell Adams. Nothing to see from running backs, really. I mean, Troymaine Pope didn't drop the ball. He was targeted underneath a few times, just wide open check downs. They didn't even do really run periods much. So, yeah, I think that's everybody that I kind of had notes on for that practice. So Hutcherson, I mentioned him a little bit ago, Tom. I love what I've seen, but again, it's so little for O-line at this point. So we'll see. Hans, to finish it off, says, but John, don't you know that Bruce Arians, the quarterback whisperer, loves playing Gabbert and thinks he's a great quarterback? I think Bruce just talks of his guys, and that's what a coach should do, man. Encourage your guys, be positive about your guys, be honest when they make a mistake, but they can make a mistake and you can still be very, very opportunistic, optimistic about what they can be down the road. Believe in your guys, and I think that he does that as a coach, and I think it's a big reason why players love him, but he's also honest with them. I think you can be both, and not a lot of people understand that you can be both. I think you can really believe in somebody and encourage them and be optimistic about their future, but at the same time, recognize, oh, you did this wrong. You got to make this better. This has to improve if you're going to reach this point. And I think Arians does a great job of bringing both of those things. And I think it's why players just love him so much, is because he's honest with you about the good and he's honest with you about the bad. And he's never going to tell you, yeah, you're doing great, and then you're cut the next day. That's not how he rolls. I think it definitely matters. Josh had a Celsius mixed berry, his first one. He loved it. So Josh Allen and Brent Allen both trying their first Celsiuses. I think it's Celsiuses. Yeah, definitely Celsiuses this past week. So yeah, encouraging stuff from those guys. They are fans. They're on board Celsius train. You should be too. Peach Vibe. Highly recommend. Check it out. Appreciate you all jumping in here tomorrow. I think we have Bruce Arians tomorrow. Last text I said, and you'll see this promotions on social media. Mark Cook, blame him if it's not true, but he said 4:30 tomorrow. 4:30 tomorrow, Bruce Arians. So 4:30, not 4:30 tomorrow, Bruce Arians on the Pewter Report podcast. Should be a great show. Then I think we'll get John Owning from Dallas Morning News. Got to double check with him, but he'll be on Wednesday, 4 p.m. To talk the Cowboys, Bucs week 1 matchup and his scouting thoughts on Joe Tryon. He scouts edge defenders very extensively, and I want to get his thoughts on that. And a little bonus, he'll be able to answer any Ladarius Hamilton questions you have, because he has watched Ladarius Hamilton extensively, because Hamilton was an ex-Cowboy. So if you have those burning Ladarius Hamilton questions ready, get them ready, because John Owning will be on hopefully Wednesday, and he'll be on to answer any questions about him. And then Thursday, Mike Clay from ESPN coming on. That, I think, is going to be a 1 p.m. Eastern show. So we'll be earlier than we've ever been before for our live shows, I believe. That'll be our earliest live show ever. That's his availability, but he really wanted to come on and give his thoughts on Bucs strength of schedule, how he evaluates that, how he evaluates and sees the Bucs roster, and why he picked the Bucs to repeat as Super Bowl champions. The lone ESPN expert from the roundtable this past weekend that picked the Bucs to repeat as Super Bowl champions. We will talk to Mike about all of that on Thursday. So a great week coming up on the Pewter Report podcast. It's all made possible by y'all consistently jumping in here, consistently giving us your support. We appreciate y'all. As always, thank y'all for the thank yous, and we'll catch you again tomorrow with Bruce Arians on another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.